Hello, I'm Tom Harmer, your town manager. Thank you for joining me today for this edition of Talk of the Town. We've been talking about the census for a number of months now, and we're really into a critical stage as we look between now and the end of September. And so we wanted to emphasize the importance of the census this decade, this census period. And we have joining me today Marilyn Stephens. She's the regional census manager for our area, and she's going to be sharing information about the census, how it works, and how residents can and should respond. So thank you, Marilyn, for joining me today.
It's my absolute pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you for inviting me.
Very good. Well, we know generally that the census takes place every 10 years. Can you talk a little bit about why is it so important to Longboat Key and to our area?
Oh, absolutely. You know, people don't remember the census. They really do not. Once every 10 years and years ending in zero for the trivia buffs, and it's constitutionally mandated. You know, everybody talks about voting, but no one really goes into depth to talk about census, since it's something that only occurs once every decade. But here we are, for the 24th time in our nation's history, we are conducting a census. And the primary reason we conduct the census is to determine each state's representation in Congress. Now, all states would like to have all 435 members of Congress, trust me, but it doesn't really work that way. Florida has been fortunate in the last census because it's a high growth state. The population enabled us to get 2 additional congressional seats. The more seats that you have, the bigger the state's voice. So where are we now? We started the self-response process. Now, when I say self-response, it's because most people believe the way we conduct the census is that we come to your house, sit in the living room with the family, collect the data, or sit on the front porch, and that's how it works. Well, the last time we conducted a census in that manner was 1950. Starting in 1960, we went to self-response. We sent the questionnaire to the household, and the household mailed the questionnaire back to us.
So here on the island, if someone has not responded yet, when they receive that envelope and they did not respond, and we show that they have not responded yet, what should they do, or what's the next steps for them?
Well, today is a banner day. This is the first day nationwide that we are starting to follow up with non-self-responding households. We started the self-responding period on March the 12th. So this is the longest period of self-response that I've experienced since I've worked for the Census Bureau. So for the last 5 months, we've been urging residents to respond either online, by phone, or by mail. So now there comes a period where we follow up, because we have to account for 100% of the nation's households. So in Longboat Key, we only have just above a 40% response rate. That means the other 60%, we must follow up with those households to secure those interviews. But in the meantime, households can still self-respond. Even though we're in the field knocking on doors, we still encourage folks to go online or call our toll-free number or send back the paper questionnaire.
So I know you talked about 100% response, so you're accounting for 100% of the households. What happens if they received the letter, they didn't respond, when the representatives go out there and knock on the door, there's no one there? What happens then to make sure that household is recognized?
Okay, one of the first things that we do is that we leave a notice of visit. There's a notice of visit card. One side is in English, one side is in Spanish. And what it says is that we have visited your household to conduct an interview for the constitutionally mandated 2020 census. And we also say that you can respond online, by phone, or by mail. And then it gives you the hours for responding by phone, which is 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. to 844-330-2020. And it also outlines on the card to go to my2020census.gov and you can respond online. Now, if no one is there, we will, maybe that same day, that same enumerator will come out. And if the enumerator writes down that the home was vacant, then that particular address will go to another enumerator's case load, and because we have to have verification on vacants. I know that some of the homes on Longboat Key, some people classify them as seasonal homes. So that means that they were vacant on April 1st. Now, let's say if I'm an owner of a home on Longboat Key, I can go to my 2020 census.gov and I can put my name in and the address, and then it will ask how many people were living here on April 1st. Now, if I say 0, then the next screen is going to ask, does this person live someplace else? And then it will also ask, what type of home is this? Is it seasonal? Is it a rental with no renters, or just what? There are about 6 options to that. And that is self-response. See, until that address comes out of our workload, then we will seek a way to find out who lived there on April the 1st.
Okay, no, and good comments about Longboat Key. We do have a lot of seasonal homes where the individuals own the home and they're here sometimes 4 months, 6 months, 9 months out of the year, but they may have another home somewhere else. So how does that work from a residency standpoint? Where do they get counted if they have more than one home?
Right, it's up to them. Where they consider their usual residence. And our question is, let's say if a person lives 6 months one place and 6 months someplace else, where do they consider their usual residence?
Okay.
If they consider it on Longboat Key, or if they consider it someplace else. Some people use Florida as a home base because of for tax purposes or whatever, but the census, none of that matters. Were you living here on April 1st? Do you live someplace else? We also ask that as well. So one of them you would list as your primary residence, and one of them as a seasonal residence.
Okay, thank you. So then when you go through this next step of process of knocking on doors, how does this ultimately get wrapped up? What's the schedule? What's the time frame for the census to complete the project for 2020?
Right. We're on schedule to complete our field operation at the end of September.
Okay. And is that the typical time each year that it's completed every 10 years?
Yeah. If we did not have a pandemic, we would have completed the field operation at the end of July.
Okay.
And see, we're just starting on this phase of it. There are multiple operations in a census. But now the non-response follow operation is the one that people hear the most about census workers going door to door. And we're only going to households that have not self-responded. So if in fact, let's say some of your seasonal residents do go online and respond that the Longboat Key home is a seasonal home and no one lived there on April 1st, then that address comes out of our workload. It is still considered as self-responding.
So what can the town do to help get the word out? I know we've worked through our social media, we've worked through our contacts at all the condo associations and the homeowner associations. Is there any advice you have for us to help you get the word out over the next 2 months?
Right. One of the things that being a native Floridian, one of the things that I urge local governments to do is to ensure that those people that are permanent residents, that they have completed at a 100% level. And then we will take care of, in our non-response follow-up, on the seasonal homes. I know some of the homes may be in the Airbnb, umbrella or something else. In 10 years, a lot has changed in rental and seasonal properties, but ensure that all of the permanent residents, say, have you all that live here in Longboat Key, have you completed the census? Because we're going to knock on the door, and after so many attempts, we can go to a neighbor or a building manager or the association to ask about the inhabitants of that household. And the neighbor might say, well, that's only seasonal. They don't live there on a permanent basis the way we do. And we will capture that.
Gotcha. Okay. So is there a particular website or a phone number if one of our residents has a question about the census and wants to receive more information, where do you direct them to?
They can go to 2020census.gov. It has all sorts of information. We will also provide to you a link to how to identify a census worker that comes to your door. They have a photo ID, the device that they will use to conduct the interview. They must have on a mask, must practice social distancing. The interview must be held outside of the housing unit.
Okay, no, very good. I was going to ask you about the census workers. How does a resident know it's really a census worker? So thank you for.
They will have a photo. They will have a photo identification. They will have a census bag. They will also have the device that they use to conduct the interview. Will have the insignia of the U.S. Census Bureau and the Department of Commerce.
Okay, very good. So
we talked with our governor's offices, and our police departments will get notification that our workers have started in the field, because we need our workers protected while they're also in the field, and they will be aware. And they will have pictures of what the badge looks like and the other materials that census worker will be carrying.
Okay, and so our residents should expect them to be out in the field now through the end of September.
Right. We're hoping, it depends on what the workload is. Some places we'll finish earlier, it's going to vary. But yes, be aware that census workers are out. And if you are a permanent resident of Longboat Key, we want you to go ahead and self-respond. Either respond by phone with one of our representatives at 844-330-2020, or go online. I mean, it takes minutes to respond online. I've had the oldest person who's called me about responding online has been a 92-year-old. And he responded online. So we really want people to self-respond.
Yeah, and the online responses, like you said, is short, it's simple. When I did it, I was expecting even more questions, but it was really, I was finished before I even realized I was finished.
Absolutely, and then you get this wonderful confirmation. That's the first time in history that you had completed it. I printed mine out, put my picture on it, put it in a frame because I want it, as a historical document. I don't have to worry about going on someone else's site. I have my own 2020 census historical document, and so I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, good. Well, again, we know this is important to Longboat Key. We're really trying to get the word out here, especially as we look out between now and September 30th. We appreciate you, talking with us today and helping us emphasize the importance of it.
And thank you. And we really, because over the next decade, Longboat Key is going to need all sorts of resources. And the question is always, will our numbers support our needs over the next 10 years?
Yeah, I think that's important. There's a lot of programs that are based on population and those population formulas. So our residents really do need to get counted. We want them to be counted, and it's important for the community overall.
Thank you. And if you want to help during the pandemic, avoid the knot, self-respond today.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, Marilyn. I appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. Take care.